And they can have my things when we're dead. But we gonna live forever.
We are here at the Boys Cast, the first podcast exclusively for the boys, and just sitting here with Danny Polishuk, sports guy.
In the boys' bunker.
He's got a baseball signed by, who was it signed by?
So went to...
Who's the baseball signed by?
Rudy Giuliani.
A big hero of Danny's.
Went to Corinne Fisher, our friend Corinne Fisher's store. We talked about it last week, Perfectly Centered. She had all sorts of... Dude, she had a Mickey Mantle signed baseball, and I left there, and I go, I should put it.
He's a happy camper. And Danny's trying to turn his side of the Boys Cast into like sort of a sports thing. He's got his shorts on as he slowly morphs into Adam Sandler.
I've always been the Sandman. This ball is so funny because this is the year of 9/11, the World Series. I was saying this the
celebratory
2001
favorite year for you.
Official World Series baseball with the American flag, ceremonial first pitch on it, signed by Rudy Giuliani. Literally, if I could just figure out a way to rub off his name, the value of this ball would go up.
Danny has... he's decided he's going to turn his side. He wants to get a beer pong table over there, some red cups, sort of a guy's guy. Mm-hmm. Danny Polishuk.
I'm a guy's man's guy.
You're a guy's, you're like a man's man. Like, if anything, like you're the type of guy that
I'm a boy's boy.
Your boyfriend would be a man's man. Like, you're like, oh, he's sort of like a guy's guy. This guy. Like you'd walk in and you having sex with a guy and you'd be like, you gay? You go, if I was gay, would this guy be such a fucking bro?
Would he? I don't know.
Just an aggressive man playing basketball with his shorts on, got a baseball. Aggressive.
Well, I had to wear longer shorts this week because everybody was saying my shorts were too short.
Well, that's why he's slowly just turning into the Sandman.
You're gonna
see him crying.
He was ridiculous for a dude who's like, I'm sure I will at some point, but for a guy who's like, what is he, in his 50s, and he just like, his main clothing thing is just like double XL basketball shorts. That's the main thing.
Adam Sandler's, his whole thing is he's like, I'm so rich and important that I can dress like a fucking literal homeless person.
He dresses like I dressed when I was 12.
No, but he looks like he was given those clothes, like someone dropped them off in a bag as he was sitting across the street.
They all came in a beer case.
Yes. But that's the kind of thing. I was thinking, they were saying, what they say, they cut dogs' balls off to make them less aggressive?
Yes.
So how... women would say that, or like, a certain type of the new age woman would basically say that there's no, differences between aggression. Like if men are getting in fights more, for example, that's because of socialization and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, all these dogs have been getting their balls cut off for nothing then, according to their logic.
That's true. Well, remember we did that podcast with the trans lady and she had her wiener, but no balls.
Wiener, no balls is wild.
She's wiener, no balls. And I'm sure some...
ween.
And imagine you're like the confused guy that's like going to have sex with a trans woman for the first time.
And you go to reach for the balls, you're like, nice.
Yeah,
no ball, no
right,
dick.
I'm doing it. I'm sucking this dick. You go, all right, I'm going to do something with the... Wait a minute.
Have you ever seen that scene in MacGruber where MacGruber's trying to cut off his dick, and at the end of it, he goes down, he goes, I'm going to cut off your dick, and it was taken off in the explosion. So Cunt starts laughing, goes, ah ha ha, because he's so happy that MacGruber didn't get a chance to cut off his dick, and MacGruber's really sad because he wanted to cut it off. That's a big deal for him. That's the thing. You go down to squeeze, and the balls are gone.
You go, what's going on?
Massive dong. I wonder if
I think we were talking about it though before that podcast, and I think they said that it's like a natural testosterone reducer.
Yeah, but that's so funny if girls are like, well, actually, men are just more aggressive because they're fucking socialized to be dicks. Yeah. And it was like, so why is it like objectively that when you cut off a dog's balls, they're less aggressive?
And they also make testosterone.
So I overcame adversity to get home last night. So
what happened?
So I was
a disaster in New York.
It was a nightmare.
Day after tomorrow stuff.
So I'm doing shows. And it's basically, it's kind of outdoor. This is uptown New York, uptown like around like 60th or whatever it is. And it's on like a patio, but it's covered. And it's raining so hard that you have to yell. Like even with the microphone because the rain's, you know what I mean? So I'm doing 2 shows. The second show, right after I go up, it gets so crazy. The power just goes off in the whole bar or whatever, right? Whole thing goes off. So they basically cancel the show. And then they go, you can't leave because they're like, apparently the area where you go out it's like
it's flooding.
pouring everywhere. Right?
I saw like the subways where it's like there was one subway around there actually where it's just like almost like a Ghostbusters or some shit. It's like water's like coming down the stairs.
Yeah,
Like,
that was the bar had this area. So I trying to pay because I had like I bought food or whatever. So the guy's like, we have no way to do it or whatever. So you have to stay. I'm just like, okay, I'm leaving.
and Ryan heard that. He goes, when God closes a door, he opens a window.
I go, listen, I'm leaving. So I sort of storm out. And I didn't realize how big of a deal it was. I wasn't clicking. I go, all right, whatever. I'll call a lift. So I get outside. I'm pouring. It's pouring.
You're not an umbrella guy either. I imagine.
No. So I have to find awnings because I brought an umbrella on the way there. And then
You did have one.
on the way there.
Oh.
And then I forgot it at the bar.
Oh, no.
Because I thought I was going to waltz outside, get an Uber. So I walked outside, I try to get an Uber, try to get a lift. Couldn't get anything. It's like there for 20 minutes. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to the subway. Run to the subway. Subways are closed.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was like, the only thing you can get is a bus. So I start waiting for a bus. I wait like half an hour for a bus. Couldn't get the bus. And then I go to a different bus station. I waited there. And then I finally got on the bus. And then when I get on the bus, after about 20 minutes, I'm like, this bus is going somewhere else, isn't it? Brings me more uptown. Now I'm at like fucking 80th.
Ryan gets dropped off in Harlem. He's all wet.
Dude, so I get dropped off on there. Now the buses are even scarcer. Now it's been like an hour and a half on my journey. I'm drenched. I got in a soaker, as her ex called it, loserfoot.
Loserfoot. Doesn't count in this scenario, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm drenched. I'm trying to get a bus. The subways no one could get. You can't get a lift. You can't get an Uber. So at this point, it's been an hour and a half. So I go, I don't know what to do. So I just go to a bar by myself and just start, I get a couple shots. I'm like, I'm going to be here forever. I start thinking I might have to get a hotel around this area.
Yeah.
Then I had the idea, I'm just going to weather it on the bike. So I saw a city bike. I walked by and I go, you can do this.
Yeah.
So
especially if you got the electric bike.
No electric bike. Gear didn't work. The thing's broken. It's a 30-minute bike ride, drenched, like overcoming storm adversity, basically like Tom Hanks in
and
something.
He's Saving Private Ryan.
I can imagine
Forrest
Tom Hanks has been in a
Gump.
movie where he's overcoming
Philadelphia.
adversity. Basically like
Basically,
Tom
in
Hanks.
Philadelphia.
Basically like Tom Hanks in one of the movies where he's overcome something. I was like Ryan Gosling in one of the movies where he had to overcome something because I was also
The
overcoming
Notebook.
something.
They're making out in the rain.
Yeah,
That's
make
you.
out in the rain.
When you fucking making out with that bike, you go, I fucking love you, bike. Just get me
Yes.
there. Just fucking get me there.
I was also like Ben Affleck in one of the movies where he's overcome something. I
don't know about Geely.
I was like a Hollywood actor in the sense that I had something that I had to overcome for the plot line of my
Character
life.
arc.
So I get home at like 1. And by the way, I'm driving through this storm. Cars are basically driving on the sidewalk. It's chaos in Manhattan.
It sounds like Forrest Gump when he's in the army. Remember? And he goes, the rain was coming up from the.
It's a little
from the
bit like
ground.
Forrest Gump when he was in the army. It's also a little bit like Danny Trejo in one of the movies where he overcame adversity.
So much adversity for him.
It's also like some of the WWE franchise movies where Hulk Hogan had to become a nanny, for example, and overcome adversity. I'm not saying I was a nanny. I'm saying the adversity level was comparable.
Was similar.
If you were watching this and you knew Hulk Hogan had to become a nanny.
Okay, in a battle of nannies, who do you think would win? Hulk Hogan as Mr. Nanny or Mrs. Doubtfire?
I'd say Hulk Hogan as Mrs. Nanny.
In a Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I don't even. It's obvious.
Oh, hello.
So this week, before we even get into any of the fucking real shit, we do have to pour one out because some of our content team at the Boys Cast has been let go.
Oh, man, it's so upsetting.
60 employees or so at Vice Magazine.
AKA the Boys Cast. They don't know they're working for us. They're subcontractors. That they
60 employees at Vice fired after writing some of the best articles known to man.
You know
which
what it
is?
is?
A travesty.
I think what happened is they figured out all the different ways to fit a dildo inside of you. They go, they were like, you know what? I think we did it.
Yeah,
There's
we
no
crushed
more
it.
articles left about how many dildos can you safely fit inside your anus.
It's a mess out there. Do you remember when our buddy did the thing at Vice? He said that Shane Smith comes on the teleprompters like Zordon from the Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And he goes, everyone's sitting there, and then it goes, doof, doof, doof. And Shane Smith he broadcasts himself on all the TVs, and he said that he goes, we won't air it which buddy, but he goes, all the other places are making shit, but Vice, what we're making, not shit. And apparently he just kept saying that. He goes, some of these other, these news stations, these television stations, shit. Vice, not shit. And he just kept
Not shit.
He said he was really
Really
strong.
had to emphasize that it's not shit.
He was then he signs off. But I decided that since one of the funniest things too is that people always actually think that I work at Vice.
I know. That's the best thing.
Yeah.
You go, what the hell? Vice is making good stuff.
Yeah. So when I was
Do you think these ladies are going to learn to cook? Oh, by the way, I did, because in the comments, it's mostly ladies. It's a she session.
well, that's the thing.
This is the she session. That's the what makes it really disgusting.
I couldn't
Fire
be
some men.
Fire
and then
some
give
men.
those women the men's jobs. Like, it's insane what they're doing at Vice.
It's not. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at Vice and be like, fire the dudes, hire more boobs. That's my policy. Boobs over dudes.
No, promote the
always.
boobs. You promote them to
Promote
the
the
men's job
boobs.
because the men's have better jobs than them,
If
obviously.
you ask me, those fucking dudes are fucking boobs.
Boobs of the week.
I want to throw my hat in the ring with some ideas. How about this? So, because they need, they're going to need content, and whatever reason they decide to fire people, I'm sure the business is booming as always. I can't imagine in any sort of way that their digital team wasn't producing maximum revenue.
Huge amounts of money.
I think they were like one above Amazon in terms of like revenue last year. Vice's digital
yeah,
content
somewhere
team.
in that. Yeah. They're, I think, one of the most valuable private companies in the world.
Well, I'm just going to, I want to throw some Kickstarters out there. Just if you are listening and you work at Vice and you're looking to hire people, I will go trans for the job. And how about this? Why chair legs are demisexual phobic? That's
Pretty
one
good,
that I
yeah.
came up with. Hockey pucks are racist and urinal pucks are sexist. That's one that I. So
Urinal pucks should also be racist because they're white.
Urinal pucks can be blue though. Which
right.
is,
I was thinking of the white ones.
But also it's sexist because blue's like the male color. They should be pink. And bestiality's the new black. That's a fun one.
Black's the new bestiality.
Black's the new
You can kind
bestiality.
of get a 2-for-1 there if you just switch them up.
And I have sex with babies, but I'm not a monster.
It's funny if someone pitched
I
that.
have sex with newborns, but I'm not a monster.
Someone probably has pitched that advice, and that wasn't a fireable offense, but like
They're like, we're not.
they got
quite
laid
there.
off for some other bullshit reason.
He goes, we're not there quite yet, but we're come back in a month.
yeah.
And last one, my two dads are transphobic. So
I like that.
you know what else? People will say that. People, it's like homophobic, and a lot of the transphobic, and a lot of comedians have made the point where it's like, I'm not afraid of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, like the spot, because the Iraq, they're like, it's not a
Yes.
spider.
So it doesn't really make sense. But it's like what I was kind of thinking was
By the way, I am. I just like to go on record.
arachnophobic, homophobic, transphobic.
I am
homophobic.
scared. Like, it is a phobia.
Danny's
I have nothing.
pantsphobic.
I have
That's for
nothing
damn
wrong.
sure. Danny's, don't you hate pants?
Don't you hate pants?
Posting those memes on Facebook. Just a fun guy. he posts baseball memes.
Honestly, might be done with Facebook forever, by the way, because I updated to the newest thing, and then I was like, I don't know what's going on anymore. I feel like fucking
You don't get it.
90
Yeah.
years old.
You can't make.
I go on there, I go, what? I got to learn this all over again? Why do you guys keep switch? I hadn't updated in like 2 years, the app, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, you can't be giving me fucking changing the infrastructure on an app that's number 5 on my user list.
Yeah, I use it once
Number
a
1 on
week.
Danny's usery list.
I use it literally like a
to
couple times
loan
a
people money.
a week, and now I'm like, what? I feel like Brooks and Shawshank. I'm institutionalized.
Yeah. Well, if they say, it's funny because they're like, okay, so this guy's transphobic, and it's like, well, it is. Let's say you're saying I don't want a bunch of like trans people around, and someone's like, you're transphobic. You're like, well, I don't know. I'm not transphobic, but I am trans lobby phobic in the sense that I'm afraid of the lobby.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Oh,
it's like a mobster's wife, right? It's like imagine you said a you had a company work party, right? And one guy was in the mafia, and he was like the head of the mafia. He also works at Target with you.
Yeah, Target with you. Garbage.
No, she does. The mobster's wife works at Target.
Oh, she works. Yeah.
But you're at Target. You're at the office.
You're
work
all in
party.
waste management.
Yeah, you're on the Christmas party, and they go, you're at the waste management party, and she goes, she's going to be around tonight. You're not afraid of her, but you are a little bit like, she comes around, you're like, hi. Yeah,
Yeah, you don't want to be walking on eggshells.
Well, yeah, you're going to have what? You're going to have one extra drink in front of her, and then be like, what's it like dating someone who killed a guy? Next thing you know, you're getting dragged out.
You're sleeping with the fishes.
So yeah, Tony Scarbone's girlfriend shows up. I don't think I'm afraid of Tony Scarbone's girlfriend, but I might be afraid of Tony Scarbone the same way you're like, if someone shows up and they're like, hey, at the workplace, beside you is going to be like gay guy, right there is going to be a trans person, and they're in the blah, 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 and you're going to run the meeting, and hey, we want you to give a talk on diversity. You're like,
also,
you go, I'm actually fucking petrified.
In this example, Tony Scarbone is actually a pretty reasonable guy, where he's only actually going to give you the fucking business if you deserve it. Whereas you might just like misstep or something.
Right.
And the other scenario, you go, I mean well, I didn't do anything. And they're like, well, we interpreted it this way, so you're done.
Is that really all that irrational to be afraid of the surrounding about them? If you have anyone where you go, they're going to be around, and if you say it a little bit wrong, even like I'm just like, I'd rather have my
balls cut off.
Well, that's anyway. But I'm saying like, you'd rather have like, your chick come up and be like, what do you think of my new haircut? And it's a buzz cut. Like that's less scary than being surrounded by protected groups and having to talk.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's why you should be a good white boy and shut your goddamn mouth and just listen, Ryan.
Well, that's the thing. You just have to shut up, because you're afraid.
You know that if the movie where there's only women, that show or whatever that's coming out, Last Man
Best
on
show
Earth,
ever.
Last Man on Earth or whatever. Like, what if that equivalent kind of, but it's just where white guys just listen.
Yeah.
So it's just a show where white guys just listen.
Imagine a world
where white guys just shut their mouth and listen. And
this fall, it's time to shut the fuck up.
so all the white guys are literally just extras because they have no lines.
Yeah,
But you get
silent on camera.
But you get famous silent on camera. But you get famous people to do it.
Yeah. It's like Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt,
who
silent
reminds
on-
me of when I was
Yeah.
but
it's silent on-
but who I relate to because we've had similar adversity that we've had to overcome.
And then it's like people just at like minorities or whatever asking them questions. And they go like, it's all just
you tell me. Well,
not.
luckily, the employees at Vice that were fired, the skills are very transferable, and that's something that if you lost your blogger job, luckily, I would say that I would, take a couple weeks off, you know what I mean? Probably for mental health. But after that, all the skills that you learn at blogging, you can maybe be like a doctor. People come in and they say, something's wrong with my knee. And they're like, well, yeah, society's bigotry is the problem with your knee.
yeah. Oh, big time.
They could be an accountant, maybe. You go, hey, you come in, they say, oh, what happened with my money? They say, it's all gone. And you say, why? They go, it's called reparations, pal. And reparations to women.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe an actuary.
Actuary?
I say that actuaries and bloggers have similar skill sets.
Yeah, you're basically accounting, but you're just one is accounting for society and the other is accounting for insurance purposes, You are, you're on the abacus of society, just moving these little beads over to the racist side.
So this is what they say. They laid off 155, which includes Refinery 29. That's their company, I guess, is laying off 155 employees, or more than 5% of the total worldwide hit count in response to revenue declining stemming from the coronavirus pandemic. So it's the pandemic.
It's the pandemic's fault.
Why would digital...
And whose fault is the pandemic? Trump.
Yeah,
so
Trump,
basically,
white people.
but like she lost her job.
Man.
Like they're all just losing their job because of Trump.
Why would it's a pretty agreed upon thing that digital properties did better in the pandemic.
Yeah, like again, you have to. It's like you're fucking on the, like you get teamed up with the best players, and then all of a sudden you have all these advantages, and then you lose, and you go, you got to make something. I don't know. It's the pandemic.
It just seems like the
Couldn't focus.
You can't blame your digital properties on success on the pandemic.
Also, it's like it's pretty known that before the pandemic, it's not everybody was like super bullish on digital properties.
Well, that's what I mean. It was the worst business.
Yeah, it was the worst business pre-pandemic.
But it had a little moment where these places. First of all, it's like the worst business model. How many? Big companies like NBC tried CISO,
forgot about Quibi.
Quibi. Every single one of these places were like, hey, you know what we'll do? We'll start the property where you look at your phone and watch our things. And they're like, yeah, we already have like YouTube and Instagram. We already do that. And you're like, yeah, but what if you paid for one? And everyone's like, why?
Yeah.
And then these places, they get into they're all like trend tracing, which is, fairly reasonable. That's what, companies do. If you're making entertainment, like big companies, of course you're going to be on top of the trends. But the problem is that this trend is you can't escape it. So if you get into the, chairs are racist trend.
Yeah.
And you hire all people that are experts in, saying that chairs are demisexual phobic. Then when you go, oh, you know what? This thing's drying up a bit. We'll move on. They go, move on from helping?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, we're making a division shift into
And what are we going to use?
white supremacy.
Yeah, we're going to just tell the news like a bunch of fucking Nazis do?
So they can't get out of this thing. Like Vice has shifted what they are 2 or 3 times. This was obviously the worst iteration, but you can't leave this iteration.
No. The realistic outcome is you just do this until you implode like a black hole. Just
It is,
implode on yourself.
it's the equivalent of the bleed it dry, where you just like, let's just milk every last little bit of.
Well, how are you
juice.
supposed to be Vice and be like, hey, we're Vice, and we're what we are now, and then we're like, you know what, we just want to be like
A fun company again.
fun company. We're gonna go back to being like, cool Vice, and people are like, I don't.
Well, then you have people at the place come up and they're like, hey, so I wrote this article about oppression. They're like, yeah, we're kind of going a different direction. We're just
We're going back to rape is cool. So if we could write some stuff up about that,
so
how there's no such thing as date rape, and they're like, oh,
yeah, and then you know what else there was this was like a while ago, but someone was saying that their name was like David Chan or something, and they had an article. It was like
the guy who started 4chan.
He's David. Yeah, the guy who started 4chan. His name's David Chan. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Nice. Yeah. But he was like saying that it was a microaggression because someone was like, he said his name was Chan, and he goes, "Oh, are you related to this other Chan?" And he was like, it was a microaggression because he thinks we're related just because they're Asian. And it was just like, no, the racist would be like, yeah, no surprise there. There's 10 million of you.
yeah, totally.
Like the not racist take.
Of course it is.
Yeah, of course.
David Chan goes, yeah, would have been my first guess.
See what I'm saying? If you go, oh, it's you so and so, that guy's so not racist that he doesn't even know that there's a lot of that doesn't even know there's a trillion Chans.
Yeah.
He just thinks, oh, that's just a guy named Chan. Whereas if you were racist, you'd just be like, yeah, you guys can't think of any new names. Every single one of you, like some shit like that.
I mean, the ultimate thing is everybody gets burned on. That is like the most, milquetoast thing is people go, oh, where are you from? Like meaning your background. But then people are like, where am I from? I'm from America.
I'm from
America. And you go, I know you're from America. Obviously, anybody could tell by the sound of your voice and your accent. I was just wondering, like, your background. Sorry, I said, where are you from instead of what's your background? And then it's like the ultimate, like, slight.
That is one of the most ridiculous ultimate slights.
I know. Yeah, where they're like, where am I from? I don't know. Earth?
We're Africa, like all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember fucking when this stuff was early popping off. I was like on a date, hanging out with a chick, and she had some. Where are you from? And she was like, she said some shit like that, and she was like, Canada. I go, yeah, that's what I meant. You're like, yeah, that's what I meant.
And maybe let's not like have our first instinct to get offended and upset.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah. When
you know exactly what someone's
when I asked a brown chick where she's from, what I meant was,
yeah,
do you live here? Yeah. Or are you touring?
Where are you from? Waterdown, Ontario.
Yeah.
Or some shit.
But literally, if someone's like, what's your background? You're like, you're Russian. I'm Irish.
Yeah,
if
of
you're
course.
Indian, you go. But the idea is like I'm supposed to look at someone that's clearly fucking Indian and be like, and not, and be like, oh, I mean, they could be from Canada. They could be from Ireland. They could be, it's like, no. Are you like, what are you?
Yeah,
Irish? Like, are you Indian or are you like?
Yeah, you're like.
Pakistani?
But again, that's your question. So you could be third generation. That's whatever. That's just.
Yeah,
that's what you're wondering.
Yeah, like if you're Italian,
it's not bad.
Yeah. It's almost if you're Italian, it's the opposite. Where someone's like, they're like, you know where I'm from? I go, I know where you're from, Canada.
I go, hey, bro, what are you saying?
Hey, fucking back in the home country where I'm from, you go, you know where you're from? You're from America, brother.
Bro. bro.
Guy out there waving his stupid Macedonian
from
flag.
Napoli.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you where you're fucking from. You're from the East Village of New York. And don't let anybody ask you or tell you differently.
Hey, go on.
Especially like the Trinidad people, where it's like, if anyone gets offended by that, it's like, where are you from? It's like, where am I from? I mean, I don't really need to ask because you have Trinidad flags head to toe.
Puerto Ricans. That's Puerto
They
Ricans.
love it.
New York is like the Puerto Rican pride. There's actually near.
So high.
Have you ever seen the I think it's on Avenue B. There's these guys and every single day they park a giant van, like camper van thing, and they open the doors up and they hang out under scaffolding. I'm not even exaggerating. 365 days a year. Could be the coldest day. Last night, fucking torrential downpour. They're hanging out under scaffolding and they're just raging it. They're all Puerto Rican. Their fucking license plate says Rican, I believe, and it's like Puerto Rican. They just love Puerto Rico and they just love chilling on the street. And they just hang out. They bring that van every day and they just park and they chill there.
They're just rocking
On
it.
Avenue-
The wives are at home.
There might be some more. No, the wives, I think some come out there. It's
the
on
wives
Avenue
come out.
12th and Avenue B in New York. Check it out.
Yeah, but asking those people, yeah, where are you from? It's like, imagine them sitting there. They're on their thing. They have Puerto Rican music playing, Puerto Rican flags everywhere, Puerto Rican tattoos. America?
Queens?
It's the most ridiculous thing. That was like a high end getting ridiculous, like getting offended over ridiculous
My
stuff.
favorite is people getting offended over food. I'll never get over people getting offended over food.
Like how much you eat, like you're that are
Yeah,
offended
yeah.
over. Hey, we brought this guy over to our house, and he literally, we walked into the kitchen and ate the full dessert.
He's eating the flour.
The dinner hadn't even started. We literally brought out a few drinks. We are serving the first course, and this fat piece of shit, he walks into the kitchen, eats the pie, including the tray, and then he came out and burped, and he goes, "I call that the reverse order."
He goes, "So when's appetizer starting?"
He comes out, burps out the pie tray, and then looks me in the eyes, and he goes, "It's called the reversal." That you didn't like when people were offended by that, did you?
No. Just the people who are like, someone decides, some restaurant goes, "Hey, we're adding wontons to our menu," and then someone is like, "You're not fucking from China, excuse me," and then they like make this whole stink. They go, "Oh, I got made fun of when I was a kid for eating wontons."
Oh yeah.
You know, they go. When I was 10 years old, I ate a wonton, and someone in my elementary school made fun of me, and now this fucking white oppressor selling wontons at their store. It's like, what the fuck, man?
When I was 9 years old, I was eating a wonton. And a gang of people kicked it out of my hand. They held me down.
They go, "You don't ever eat wontons ever again," and then now I have to go. And that same bully
ever see you
opens up
eating
their own
wonton.
wonton shop.
If we ever see you eating wontons in this town again, you're not going to want to talk about it. All right. Okay. They say that, okay, so in a statement, Vice's union, which represents the editorial and other employees, we understand that the entire news industry is hurting, Vice union statement said, because Trump's gone. We do not understand why Vice chose to lay off so many of our colleagues in the middle of a global pandemic instead of exhausting all options to save the jobs.
I mean, they've been saving your jobs for 5 years. You have all been redundant for 5 years, and things were just good enough where they're like, "Yeah, we'll keep you around," I guess.
One of the problems with the unions in creative fields, it's like, you know, there is places where unions are good, and there's, especially when there's like danger involved, you know what I mean? But the problem with unions in like creative fields is, especially like ones like this, is they make it so. I'll talk about Vice specifically, but when they have blogger unions, right? What they do is they basically they kind of like socialize everything, where it's like they turn jobs that like some people are way better than other people into, you know, in comedy in Canada is very like you work your way up, you work at this club. Like it's not like who's popping and who's killing the hardest if you're at like, for example, Yuck Yucks. It's like there is a seniority of this guy's been here longer.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Whereas for something like this, where it's, you know, who's the best at making the like cheers are racist articles, it really is like who's getting the most clicks.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's getting preferential treatment for how it's like.
Right. But
being
they
shown.
have like, if you work here for this many years, you get this much of a raise. So what it does is the best people it sort of blocks you off from giving them like double the pay. Like you can't just, for example, be like, this person's making way more money, let's give them a huge raise. It's kind of how in construction, it's very like the one guy's like working an extra minute for his break, and you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, totally,
like,
yeah.
are you trying to?
Yeah, you're trying to
make us-
fucking. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
hey, union, you're not allowed to work for the next 15 minutes. It's like someone sparked a cigarette. We're all on break.
Yeah, we all smoke now. Everybody, we smoke now.
That's part of the union.
Part of the union. Grab your smokes.
The union rules. Everyone needs to smoke. So that's what it does. So what happens over the course of a long time in places like this is, and again, whether maybe you think if you run this company, maybe this is what you want. So it's like, it's just a value system thing to some degree, but it's the best people. If you're actually someone that's like flourishing in an environment like this, it's harder to move up and get like the big money. So it's very hard with like a big union system to go, hey, this guy who's been here 3 years is crushing it so hard, we're going to give him $100,000 a year, even though everyone else makes $30,000 a year. It's almost like impossible, right?
Also, these people don't really create any value for their company. Like they're not like, if someone,
I'm sure there's some star blogger
I'm
there
sure
that-
there are, and maybe
This guy cannot stop getting
but
clicks.
they didn't. But the thing is like they didn't shut down. Like a lot of these people got shit canned from Refinery 29. Like it's not like Refinery 29's gone. They just were like, we don't need any of these unnecessary articles that don't do well. I'm sure they kept. If you're cranking out articles that are doing really well, I doubt they fire you. These people were just doing. Nobody wanted any of their shit.
Yeah, but
There was no value created.
well, that's what happens is because all the people that are crushing it, just they leave for, because the only way to get a bigger pay off the bat is to leave to a new place, like make a big move. And then you kind of left with all the, average performers.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why you get such wild articles, because when you're not that great, it's like you have to use the dark arts of just like everyone knows probably in that field that the most salacious stuff is just the most like basic bullshit. Like white people should die. Like,
Yeah,
that
of
article is
course.
going to do better than
Of
like a
course.
nuanced take, right?
Yeah.
So I think that probably the smartest people somewhat probably know in any like article or any news sort of oriented thing know how to a little bit like spice on like
Of
a little bit of
course.
both.
I mean,
but the
editors
bad
even-
people just only know how to do that. That's the only way they know how to get
Well,
clicks.
it's the trick. They were never good to begin with, and it's this trick they figured out as a bit of a shortcut.
and they abuse it.
Yeah, they abuse it, and it's literally the comedian who finds out one little like trick of comedy, and then
Analogies.
Or
I loved what
I look
buddy-
like a love child of. Like if you go into like a comedy club in 1995, every comedian their opener is like, yeah, I know you're thinking I look like a love child of blank and blank.
Danny comes in, he goes, I know what you're thinking. I look like a love child of Chris Farley and Kevin Farley.
Because I'm fat, but I'm retarded looking. I go, yeah.
There's nothing funnier than when one of your buddies like finds a new trick. Like our friend JJ came in and he was he figured out analogies.
Yeah.
And one day he just came and he was like, yeah, I'm sort of like I'm like a chair, it's like I got a big long leg and people want to sit on my face. Like whatever
Yeah.
the fucking one it is. If you actually think about it,
And then literally
having sex is a lot like going to the gym, a lot of tugging and pulling.
You basically turn your comedy into like a bathroom reader. Remember all those bathroom readers back in the day? Like books were specifically called bathroom readers, and it was like they just had stuff like that in them. They were like, yeah, I'm kind of like
Yeah.
jokes.
A lot of tugging and pulling. And at the end, you have to pay money. And every month, you have to pay a monthly. A lot of the this is like sex end up.
That's
with you have to
crazy
pay
that there
money.
was someone who's like very successful who's like made all of their money from writing joke books that people read while they shit, specifically. Like they're for.
Having sex is a lot like eating spicy food. I'm sweating the whole time. It's over in 2 minutes. And at the end, I have to pay money.
And my asshole burns.
Oh, yeah. That asshole burns is a big one.
Asshole burns. Everyone is every joke ends with your asshole
Yeah,
burning.
yeah.
No matter what.
At the end of it, my asshole's burning.
Drinking a glass of water is like having sex. At the end, my asshole's burning.
It takes 2 seconds. There's something going into my mouth. And at the end of it, my asshole's burning. Dude, our buddy, he literally came up to the comedy club and his act was just 4,000 analogies. he figured out analogies.
Yeah.
Something's a lot like, and then then the actor, you go, it's not like, you go like a clown. It's like, it's like if you're a clown, you're not going to work at a doctor's office. What would that look like?
Yeah. But if he did,
what would that look like? And then you do. Fuck. But
good shit right there.
yeah, well, I can't believe that they fired women. One thing I was gonna say,
Disgusting.
So
she session.
So this is kind of like a funny thing, but Vice, some guy was making an Andrew Dice Clay doc at Vice, and he like reached out to like my management and stuff and asked if I wanted to be in it. But I fucking waved it down.
Yeah.
I said,
What about a sketch idea right now? Andrew Vice Clay.
hey, cheers.
Hey, what's the deal with two genders? The 72 genders. Oh.
Andrew Vice Clay. Holy shit, that's so funny. Yeah.
Hickory dickory dock. Gay marriage is acceptable.
Hickory dickory dock. Dudes don't have to have a cock.
Hickory dickory dock. Ladies can have a cock. Oh.
Andrew Vice Clay. Oh, fuck. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. I'm sucking on this chick's dick. Oh. I'm sucking my chick's dick.
With like a sequined leather vest. It's like,
yeah, very non-binary.
Yeah, very non-binary. Just like eyeshadow on a vape with a vape. Andrew Vice Clay. All right, that was good.
Okay, you know what? We'll do a quick sponsor here. Fitbod, ladies and gentlemen, don't get stuck doing the same workouts. Making progress towards the future you means overcoming new challenges. So they have tons of interesting workouts. Keep it interesting so you don't get bored, and they give you time for your muscle groups to recover. There's no perfect body that everyone can achieve except for me. This is a perfect body, and that's why Danny looking next to me, I make sure that we always wear the same outfit.
Yeah. Just before and after.
Yeah, I look good. By definition, I go, Danny, if you guys don't realize this, but I come up to Danny, I go, I got us some new shirts.
Yours is vertical lines, mine are horizontal. Like, oh, come on.
That's so funny. I give you a shirt with vertical horizontal line, and I go, what? We're leaving that. Let's go. Let's do the cast.
Yeah, we're wearing the same shirts. I go, they're not the same shirts. They both have lines on
I make
them.
your shirts lines a little wobbly just to make you look fatter. But what we can do is continually become a better version of ourselves. The app is clear, easy to use, balances muscle groups, so fully recovered, so you can get fully recovered for your next workout. And Fitbod understands that the path to achieving your best looks is different for everyone. So personalized training can be tough on a budget, but Fitbod is only $9.99 a month or $59.99 a year. Sign up now and you'll get 25% off the membership. So pick up the pace on your fitness journey with Fitbod today, and your future self will thank you. Get 25% off membership at fitbod.me/boyscast. That's 25% off fitbod.me/boyscast. Now, our Jeopardy guy, who
Guy cannot catch a fucking break.
Yeah, me and Danny have been texting
Holy
back and forth
shit.
about our Jeopardy. This
This
Jeopardy
guy
all
cannot
week.
catch a break right now.
So this is someone from the Patreon sent me a pretty great article that they wrote about it. So this is what we're gonna do. So the Jeopardy guy has been fired, but Vice, we're centered around Vice today. This is very important to us. Has written an article about how to write the perfect apology, and we're gonna go through both of those. But first of all, so after all that, we talked about this last week. He got fired from his one job. They said, you can keep your executive producer job. And then, bam, they said, take backs.
Yeah, I go, you know what? Too much of a distraction. Even though it wasn't. You're like, okay, it's over. The whole thing's done.
And then, so that's so crazy that afterwards, they literally said he can keep his executive producer job. And then because of his bro-y comments, they kicked him out of that too. And let this be a lesson to any man that thinks you should just have a job. But the best part is, before we get Vice's advice. So Washington Post wrote the fucking most hilarious article on this topic. So after he got fired from his other job, this is what Washington Post wrote. They go, how journalism saved Jeopardy from an unworthy host after an utter failure of corporate vetting.
Way to pat yourself on the back, journalism.
That's their take.
You think they're watching it on the news and it's like breaking news, like in their newsroom on the TV. Mike Richards or whatever out as, and they're like, yay, journalism! We did it, journalism.
Yeah, fuck. Do you ever see, you know that, the newsroom?
Yeah.
I remember one of the lines that I always think of. The famous thing is when he goes, yeah, America's the friggin' best. Yeah. Well, yeah, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, do you think about this? We're number 45 in meat consumption. List off all the things they're bad at.
Uh-huh.
But that show, at one point, when he's on like a come up, he's doing good. And then he has like a good story and he looks at the girl. He goes, I fucking love the news. I thought that was so funny.
I fucking love the news.
He looks at the mirror and he goes, fuck, I love news. So these people, their take is ball washing themselves.
Insane.
Where they go, this guy got fired. And their take on this is if those people at Jeopardy would have done their jobs, we wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
You think we want to do this?
We could be on a fucking beach in Cabo right now, but you guys couldn't do. Also, the idea that the baseline of this is like Jeopardy is this like institution that must be preserved.
That's how they're looking
in its
at
like
it, yeah.
pristine form, and that any sort of like changes that could it could bring down the country. Like this is like important. This is, it's like Jenga, and they're like you're fucking with the fabric of our culture.
That's exactly how they're talking about
They are. They really are. They go, oh my god, imagine It's like it's a game show that from 40 years ago that 5% of people give a shit about who used to.
And even when they do, it's like fake nostalgia. I'm sure there's some people that watch Jeopardy, but this person that wrote this article, they started by saying, listen, me and my friends love Jeopardy and we watch it every night and blah, 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 right? Then he goes, so when this happened, my friend and I considered boycotting Jeopardy over this decision, though that would have meant forfeiting our pop culture comfort food. So they didn't decided. They had a big meeting.
I'm sorry, is Jeopardy this big pop culture thing?
For this dork. But first of all, the arrogance to be like a single person, and when you stop watching a show, like you go, oh, I don't watch that. It's a boycott.
Yeah. There is one thing I'll say that I am kind of like probably lukewarm on is the fact that this dude was the executive producer. You're on a hunt to pick a host. Then you just pull this move where you pick yourself.
Yeah.
Like straight up, you go like you weren't even in the mix for this.
We talked about that.
Yeah,
That was
I know.
scumbag
But I'm
move.
saying it's such a scumbag move. But yeah, for him to just lose everything.
You know what? They put us into positions where we have to defend people. I don't know. Maybe this guy sucks. But the problem is,
Oh, he's for sure sucks.
right now, I am fucking pro Mike Richards. I'm pro Michael Richards.
If your name's Mike, your name's Richards. Let's hang.
Richard Jennings.
You think him and fucking Kramer are hanging? Going, dude, it's tough being us, huh?
Tough being Mike Richards.
Ooh, how far we have fallen.
Yeah. And so, but he goes, him and his friend decided whether they're going to boycott Jeopardy. And they called each other and they're like, are we doing this? Are we doing this?
Well, like, what else are we going to do at 7 o'clock?
And they go, all right, we'll watch it, but we won't be happy about it. So they decided, despite their conversations, they decided not to boycott Jeopardy. And they said, so McNear, that's the person that vetted Richards. They go, McNear vetted Richards with material that was out there in plain sight. Happily, we won't have to do that now, said thanks to Claire McNair of The Ringer, the reporter and author who diligently did what Sony, the show's parent company, failed to do. And then McNear says her process wasn't all that complex. They're interviewing
Journalist
about her process.
About her process of saving Jeopardy.
Process,
yeah.
Supposed to say process.
I say process. I'm not a
yeah.
fucking hoser
But
like you.
I'm a fucking hoser.
You're a fucking hoser.
I'm getting polluted. You want to talk about my process of getting fucking polluted?
Play some fucking offense, boys.
Boys, they are legitimately, this is a journalist
Yeah.
Interviewing-
Whose journalism is just like just listening to, it's the same journalist as your like girlfriend who's trying to bust you. She's like, yeah, she just went and dig through all your shit, just listened to 43 hours of podcasts.
But okay, this is a journalist who didn't break the story, interviewing the girl from The Ringer, who released the article that got him fired. The Washington Post is like, do you think we could get her?
But this is,
And they are interviewing a journalist from another publication
Yeah.
on her process.
It's almost like
of how she takes them down. Her cancel process.
This is like their Watergate. This is honestly, you go, you know who we need to get the journalists who broke Watergate. They're the new stars of this.
Holy shit. Their cancel process.
How do you cancel?
He goes, this is what she says of her process. It's not that complex. I just kept looking.
Yeah, I just downloaded a podcast and I listened to it.
She told CNN's Brian Stelter on Sunday. I'm not kidding. She was being interviewed.
I want them to talk
Stelter.
shop, and she goes, yeah. So sometimes I've been toying with listening to 1.5 speed or 2 speed because you can't listen to 1 speed, that just takes too long. Sometimes with 2 though you miss stuff. So I've settled on 1.5 speed. Or she's like I had a custom speed made for me. I had a friend at Spotify. 1.77 is the perfect speed.
It's the perfect speed
but it's
for
a custom speed. You can't get that. Not everybody.
She
That's
has-
journalism only.
Dude, the ultimate, like the expert mode cancelers. She's listening to 2 podcasts at once.
She has 2 different devices.
She's able to
Right and left hand taking notes, just like
speed reading, when they read every 5th word,
Yeah.
she can listen to every 5th word and still know if something was offensive. It's like that. And I go, reel that back a little bit. That black, I could tell by the tone that was about to be a cancelable offense. Cancelable hours. The lawyers is billable hours.
Cancelable
hours.
Just reading transcripts of podcasts.
Holy shit. In a Twitter thread over the weekend, McNair included some of the material that she didn't have any room for in the last week's story. Sort of like the extras.
Yeah.
It's like the bloopers and the extra footage.
On the cutting room floor.
What was left on the cutting.
On the canceling room floor.
She after he already got fired, she released some of the
She goes,
material.
hello, I have more. The body's dead. He's
Oh
cold.
my
Body's
God.
cold.
This needs to be a lesson to any fucking man who thinks he should just have a job. So, and we talked about that a bit, but there was new developments, and I'm obsessed with this Jeopardy story because it is the ultimate in just like, yep, you never have a job. That's the end of that. You can't be in those fields. But Vice, and this made me laugh so much because I was thinking about doing a sketch, and it's kind of one of those things where the reality, I never made the sketch, but it's one of those things where reality like is crazier than what I would have made. So Vice, and I don't know if this girl still works here or not, right? That's something that we aren't aware of, right?
I mean,
Well, she may have been fired in the mass purge.
well, her Twitter doesn't exist.
But this article is called "The Making of the Perfect Celebrity Apology," and so Vice is interviewing this girl who's like a PR person that does all the apologies. And it's so funny because the way they're talking about it, it's like, you want to pretend that you care, but not actually care too much. And she's talking about it. And then Vice, it's like the two of these people working together is like the Federal Reserve and the chairman of like Goldman Sachs being like, what's your process? What's your process? Like they're working together.
Yeah.
So Vice, they're like, this quite the racket they've got. It's like Vice puts them on blast.
It's a bit of an ecosystem.
Yeah, it's almost like the publicists. They get these clients, and then they're paying off the blogs like, yo, we need a hit piece.
Yeah.
I just got Clooney. If you could dig up some dirt on Clooney, and then Clooney calls his publicist, like, they're coming for me, and he goes, oh, we're going to have to work overtime. It's like what kind of circle jerk is this?
Bit of a racket.
Like, if you are a publicist, you shouldn't be interviewing with Vice. You should be like, they're the enemy.
Yeah, totally.
But the fact that they're in cahoots,
You know what the problem is?
this is like a conspiracy.
We're giving all of these people so much credit as like these are these full-time gigs when in fact these are all like side hustles for every one of these people. And so
Right.
we're like, what do you do? And they're like, yeah, I do. I don't have a lot of stuff
I will say
going
though,
on.
these
I
big
do
publicity
anything."
firms these are full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Like these are publicity firms that represent big celebrities.
Yeah, that's true.
They make lots of money, and especially isn't it interesting to think that there's an entire industry that is making lots of money off celebrity apologies from an incentive standpoint? Not great.
Yeah. I'm looking at her Twitter right now, by the way. She doesn't have mentioned Vice, so I think maybe she's not with them anymore.
This is her coup de grace. But she doesn't say anything that crazy. She's interviewing the person on her process. So she interviews the canceller on her process.
Yeah.
Then she interviews the apology team on their process.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a whole cottage industry.
Yeah. She should maybe link the two.
Well, it seems like they are.
Yeah.
And so I was going to do a sketch on like the guy who makes the Hollywood apologies and put them all together and whatever, right? And she says the stuff that I'm like, I would have said this stuff verbatim in my sketch as a joke.
Yes.
You know the other thing about, like, for example, the Jeopardy guy getting canceled or whatever, like all the people that get fired, it's like, it's almost very few really talented people are like in sync with consensus for their whole life. Do you know what I mean? How many talented people are consistently in sync with what the consensus is?
Yeah.
know?
No, it's
None.
almost like you want to just not follow that stuff at all.
Just by nature of like being independently thinking, over time, you're not going to be in sync with a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's just
Unless you follow the feedback so closely that you almost let the feedback like reshape you, because you try and like.
Well, then you're not talented anymore.
Well, for
like,
sure.
At that point.
But I mean, you see that a lot on like, YouTubers and stuff who their fan base is like, I hate that. And they go, okay, I'll never do that again. Sorry.
Yeah, but I wouldn't consider that a talented person. I would consider that a coward.
Yeah, totally. But I'm saying you see that where they just let, they let the audience turn them into a mascot almost.
Saying I'm sorry has become its own art form in Hollywood. And for better or worse, it takes a team to make it happen. Well, you would want people to think that.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest names in the business break down how the biggest name in apology.
In the apologies business.
That fucking crazy.
We brought in an expert from Hallmark who writes cards for imagine.
Yeah. The guy who writes the apology Hallmark cards is like a hot.
Yeah, he's like that's the ultimate job for the I crank out about 20 different ideas a day.
He says they're going to break down how the sausage gets made of the apology. So it's like, or you know what the other thing is, you think this apology person would be kind of like a secretive business.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, yeah, it's fucking complete bullshit. Like we get a team together. They're not even, and you're just like, why are you telling us this? Like, shouldn't you at least pretend?
Yeah, you go, yeah, we just copy and paste. It's kind of mostly.
Yeah, shouldn't you at least pretend that a team didn't write their apology?
Yeah, I know.
You're like, yeah, we just wrote Clooney's apology the other day, and you're like, Clooney's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Clooney's like, yeah, kind of takes a little of the the apology away from when people know that I meticulously crafted it and spent fucking.
And I was on a boat
team.
when you were meticulously
Yeah,
crafting it.
that's true.
It's crazy. So they go, sometimes it's an affair, sometimes it's working with Woody Allen, sometimes it's benefiting from a system that condones misogyny and racism.
Oh, I hate misogyny and racism.
But worse is benefiting. But always apologizing for the affair is always nuts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're just like, it sucks, but like, you should say sorry to your wife and that's your own business. But like,
I know, the public apology.
why am I saying sorry to you?
Yeah, to the public. I go, hey, public, I had an affair. I'm sorry.
Like, imagine you were married with kids and you got caught cheating and it was like a whole fucking debacle. Like, yeah, your life would be a mess. But if you came to me and you're like, dude, I'm so sorry. I go, what are you saying sorry to me for?
Yeah, you're like, what do I care?
Let alone, like, I guess the only time I get it is if you present yourself as like Mr. Family Values.
Sure.
And then there's been like a bait and switch. Like if you're a pastor, or like a mega pastor,
Yeah, mega
that gets caught
pastor.
cheating, you're like, I'm sorry because I was lying.
Yeah. Well, no, they have the ultimate because they have all these like little with the Lord stuff. So it could be, oh, the Lord I slipped up and he was testing me and I failed the test, but I'm back.
You can always,
They have all the things.
yeah, you can always fucking figure out how to
What would
make
be
that
the
one
best
work with
fucking
the lie.
apology for someone cheating would be if John Legend got busted for cheating and his letter was like, you guys all know why I did this, okay? Just fucking get off my back.
You've seen what she's
Yeah,
up
you
to.
guys know why I did this.
Oh,
Come on.
Yeah, you don't cheat. Let's see you try not
He
to
goes,
cheat.
I'm John Legend. My fucking wife's dumb bitch, Chrissy Teigen.
Yeah. Oh, what? Oh, okay. Well, how about you don't cheat then?
Yeah.
So
Everybody be like, yeah, we get it, man.
So sometimes, can you imagine though, being a hiring a publicist team, and you're like, we need to apologize. You go, what are we apologizing for? Benefiting from a system that condones misogyny and racism.
That's like even if
broadly.
that's like if you don't have a scandal. That's just like if you just have guilt, just
Yeah.
general white. Like me and you could just straight up be like, call them up right now. And go, we need to issue an apology.
can we do an apology
What
for the
happened?
boys,
You
guys?
know, just
We've been benefiting from the system that
from the
condones misogyny.
for our whole lives,
For
like
our whole
30,
lives, really.
30 plus years. So if you could really get the team on it, if we get the A team together on this,
Yeah. Don't hold back. Cancel your schedule.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Ryan. Cancel your schedule.
Go. How much of a retainer do you need? They're like, I don't know, 10,000. And like, I'm sending 20. Do this right.
Yeah, do not mess this up. So they say writing out a celebrity's story has become a cottage industry. How do you craft a statement that needs to be read as authentic and not focus grouped and driven by buzzwords? But they're like, how do you craft a statement that needs to read as authentic? You know, they already
Do it yourself?
They're already implicitly accepting that. Like, I mean, obviously, it's not going to be authentic. You know, what are we?
Yeah. And also, it's like, obviously, nobody who's sorry is actually sorry. They're just sorry that they got caught. So, you know, you got to navigate that whole thing.
What if but
But it's understood when you read it. Like, you know, like when you're reading Mike Richards' apology, you're like, he does not think or believe any of this stuff. Like you read the apology and the apology was enough for him to keep his executive producer job, at least at first. But you're like, you don't think this at all. It's obvious. You like,
no, duh.
yeah, that's what I'm saying when they're like, oh, like nobody who's in the public, like the people who are mad at him are even more dubious of the apology. The people who want him fired are like, they think there's nothing to his apology. Whereas me and you are like, maybe something, but he was forced. But like, they don't even accept the people you're apologizing to won't accept it at all.
Yeah, I know.
They only accept you just being like, oh, I'm going to kill myself. And they go, thank you.
Kevin Spacey, probably the best apology. I'm gay.
Yeah. He goes, okay.
He started because the old school.
That's actually my
was, I'm a
apology.
sex addict.
That's my apology with my girl. Anytime I do anything bad, I just go, I'm sorry. I'm gay.
I'm gay.
She goes, you fucking left the coffee pot on and it's all ruined. I go, I'm sorry. I'm gay.
You ate the pies again. I'm gay. Oh, I'm sorry that I'm gay. So yeah, you're right. No, there's no one. They don't want to listen to the apology.
No.
What if Mike Richards said this was his apology? He came out and he said very somberly, he goes, I would like to address everyone that I've hurt. Misogyny, boobies. I'm sorry. Look at these. And then he pulls down a girl's shirt and he goes, not sorry. He goes, you remember when in that old
Oh yeah.
Misogyny. I'm sorry. Boobies. Look at these. And pulls down the girl's shirt and he goes, I quit. Fuck you. R. Kelly wrote an I'm sorry song. I said, I'm sorry. He had a song about all the things he's sorry about.
Is that going to be used against him in this fucking trial?
Yeah, probably didn't help. You know that.
By the way, the YouTube comments are going to be lighting up with how you pronounce sorry.
Sorry. That's better, right?
No, you say sorry. You say sorry.
Did you know that the Death from Above guy?
Yeah.
So there was who's actually like pretty solid dude. It's like a pretty big band from Canada, but he went to lunch with Gavin McInnes, and someone
I remember.
posted a photo that the two of them were at a bar together, and they started canceling his shows. Like he had like 90 hit pieces, and he had to be like, I'm so sorry that I had a beer with that guy.
Yeah.
Who I've known for 15 years.
Yeah, totally.
He had to apologize for having a beer with a guy that he fucking knows. But apparently that guy's like fucking like a G.
Who, the Death from Above guy?
Yeah. Well, I think I met him a couple times actually, now that I think about it. But there was, because this happened way before I met him. But everyone, like, Jarek and all those guys are buddies with him. And they were like, nah, that guy fucking, he's like badass.
Yeah, I'm sure he's just placating the...
How do you express
mob.
contrition but not culpability? Whom do you pay to pen a statement that minimizes damage instead of magnifying the mistake? And what happens when your client skips all that, goes rogue, and fires off their own quick message of regret, or worse, doesn't think they did anything wrong at all?
Yeah.
And it was like, in the apology game, there's nothing worse than if they didn't think they did anything wrong. It's like, well, yeah, the internet's never wrong. I would never, if I had to like ever work with someone on an apology, which I don't know, hopefully I've never like fucking living like that.
Yeah.
But I would want the publicist that like we can level that this is all bullshit, right? Like the
Yeah, of
publicist that
course.
has
It's
to
like-
believe
it's like
it.
a fucking if you commit a murder. It's like OJ's lawyers. It's not they're like
Yeah.
well, you're innocent, OJ. Wink. Like it's
No, but this girl, her sort of energy is like she's like, and obviously they are this girl, the working in the apology industry,
Yeah.
she believes the apologies are necessary.
So you know what I would do? I would remember in the fucking South Park where Carmen says "suck my balls," and then Mr. Garrison's like present them or whatever.
present them.
Present them. No, what I would do is if I had to do an apology, I just go on Twitter and I'd post my own address. I'd be like, "See you guys later."
Dox
Dox myself. I go, "All right, we reached the end of it. Here's my address. I'll see everybody tonight."
Yeah. And this is the part that was wild for me. She goes, I don't like to wait until it blows up. I don't like to wait until it's a mandatory apology because the whole world knows. I've debated this with teams. If you're going to apologize later, why not apologize now? And it was like, so the pay me to write your apology person like thinks like you should be apologizing all the time.
Literally have us on retainer.
Yeah,
Just crank out a monthly apology.
She goes, I debate this all the time with like clients and teams. Why don't we just apologize before it even happened? And it
Yeah.
was like, you think that, do you?
I keep saying,
How much is it going to cost me? 10 grand.
I keep seeing on the list of apologies, it says like LA based publicist, but then I think of like based publicist,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
the based
they're literally their
publicist.
apology is just like fuck those queers.
I
It's
want
like,
to
that is
apologize.
a based publicist.
Yeah.
Is he New York based? No, he's just based.
I'd like to apologize for Israel putting me in this position.
Whoa, that's a based publicist.
Based publicist.
Yeah, based.
Can I? And then they go, can I just reply to the one person on Twitter who called me out? My response is always, no, if you've upset one person, there's definitely more who are upset. They might not be tweeting you, but there's definitely more. So it's like, she goes, she's telling clients, if one person on Twitter is mad at them about something, they should already be apologizing.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right. But what I'm saying is these apology people probably have a whole branch that's on Twitter being
Oh
like,
yeah.
they're working with Vice. This is my conspiracy.
Yeah,
they're working with all the BuzzFeeds and the Vices, the Seth Simons of the world. Then those people find the things, right? Then they take that, start a fake Twitter account, like, normal guy who used to like you.
Yeah.
And they post, hey, what's this thing you said in 1901? You know what I mean? And then they go and then they go back to their client. They're like, I think we should apologize now. They force them to do an apology. Then they call up BuzzFeed and they go, we're going to need another article. BuzzFeed writes the article. They go back to the client now for the real apology. They just got paid 3 times.
Oh yeah. Not to mention that for Vice or BuzzFeed or whatever, they regularly have articles where the headline is the internet is fuming over this, and then the internet in this scenario is one Twitter account. But it's one anonymous Twitter account.
They can create their own.
That's what I'm
news.
saying. You got this flywheel.
It's the perfect scam.
I know.
All you need is a sucker celebrity. So that's why you have to stay away from these people, because the apology person's like, hey, you want to talk about apologies? You need to be like, no, I would never apologize for anything ever.
Yeah.
And then they can't use their thing on you where they're
They're scheming.
And she goes, sometimes there's lots of drafts. The ones I've done have probably had at least 10 drafts in a 48-hour span. So they're doing, anytime you see a celebrity do anything, they have 10 drafts minimum.
Except for Shane.
Yeah, exactly.
Shane was
he did what she didn't want.
Yeah.
She goes,
He did his
sometimes they
own.
just do a knee-jerk post themselves.
Shane said NBC gave him the boilerplate apology,
okay.
and he's like, I'm not doing that, and then he just did his own. He had 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's what she says she doesn't like them to do. There you go. We have to always do the drafts because they probably let the client do the first one, and they come back, they go, I wouldn't put the N-word in your apology.
Considering it's the thing that got you in trouble here, I'd probably leave it out, even though you're just referencing you saying it. But
I just want to say that I'm sorry to these broads, and let's not do that one. Andrew Weissglass. It takes a while to get in the place where the statement is straightforward, authentic, and impactful it needs to be. So they're admitting we need a team of people to get it authentic. And they said these are really painful, hard days on the job, especially when you know that they've grown as a person.
Oh, that's the worst. Is writing an authentic apology for someone who can't do it for themselves, especially when you know they've grown as a person. Like, that must be so hard, because you're like, I know you've grown. You just can't write an apology authentically yourself because you're not authentically yourself because you've been acting your whole life.
So they're literally, she goes, it's painful, hard days. They have a fucking, a panic. What do they call it? A crisis room.
Crisis, yeah.
They're all yelling at each other. She's smoking
War
cigarettes.
room.
She thinks she's Hunter S. Thompson.
Oh no, Seagal just took a
Seagal
spill.
lost his guns. See, we got chain smoking cigarettes. I've got it. I've finally done it.
What do you think the Steven Seagal School of Crisis Management would be?
Hi-ya!
It would literally be like, hey, Steven, I said something bad on the internet and all these people are mad. He goes, we'll break their necks.
Tell her I want them to come over to my house and I'll apologize. Meet me in the garage. Tell them to meet me in the parking garage for my personal
Just
apology.
fucking snapping everybody's necks.
Hi-ya!
They're like just waiting for him. He just sneaks up from behind them. Snaps
meet
their
me.
necks. How many do you think there's a tally somewhere? How many times has Steven Seagal snapped someone's neck like this in a movie?
Mostly.
Like how many? Over 100 in all the movies he's ever done?
More.
The movie was sick if he just did all, like, you know how like the cereals or whatever, like Captain Crunch, and they do only Crunch Berries.
Yeah.
What about a Steven Seagal movie where it's only neck snapping? It's just one after another of just snap necks.
Compilation. Neck snaps.
But it's not a compilation.
We're cutting out the fat.
It's not a compilation.
Yeah.
It is its own movie, but just him snapping necks.
Snapdragon.
Yeah, snap. Oh, here we
Probably
go.
call that.
Yep. Love it.
And then her final thing, she's like, I know that a lot of reps will, the idea of if these people on Twitter stop talking about it, it'll be gone. And what she says is, no, what'll actually happen is they're all just waiting in the fringes. And the next time you have something big happen, it'll hit you even harder. So she thinks that, she's out there with her fake Twitter accounts. And she's like, you should always apologize when 3 people on Twitter yell at you. And it was like, no, the answer is, I guess, like, never have a job ever.
Well, no, the real answer is, look, if you get a job working for a corporation when you previously did not,
delete everything you've ever done on the internet.
Like, especially a public corporation, a public company, delete all your podcasts. There's no benefit.
Delete your
to it.
podcast, delete your Twitter, delete your
Everything. Just delete everything.
Yeah, it really is. Delete everything you've ever done.
If you have this cushy
Erase your
job
life.
where you're like, I'm an executive producer, whatever, there's no reason for you to keep your podcasts up.
And then when people ask you anything, they go, you turn into Steven Seagal where they go, hey, didn't you used to do a podcast? You go, I told you never to ask about my past.
Yeah, exactly.
What's done is done. I'm not that guy anymore. And then that guy's erased.
Next snap.
You start a new name, start a new identity, and then start a new Facebook account, and then burn your computer, take the hard drives, throw them in the river.
Did you see that high school football thing, by the way?
What was
last
that
week? So this company, it's called Sycamore something. They got like there's how a bit like high school football's huge in the US, and they like play each other on ESPN, like the big teams. So this team was like none of them are high school players. They were like a fake team, and they made up that they were like this big like prep academy, but nobody could back it up. And they got a game on ESPN against like the IMG Academy. They lost like 58-0 or something. But like the coach was like had current like open warrants for his arrest. Really? And it was like a fake football team. They were like I don't even know. Like they were just like, they were a football team, but they didn't play anybody. They weren't attached to a school. They made up the whole thing so they could like play on ESPN. They got smoked, and like they weren't like they don't play in any conference or league. They just like
the whole point of it was just to like be able to weasel their way into the tournament.
I guess I don't know, because like football is like you can't just like be like, oh, we're just gonna play football this weekend.
I don't get it really. I'm not really following this.
It's like literally a fake football team. There's
what's the
50
point?
guys to play on ESPN on TV, and they played this.
So it was all a big
they wanted
ruse,
to win, like they wanted to, but they were nowhere near good enough.
So they faked all the stuff.
They said they had all these. This was last week too. They said they had all these like D1 recruits, and then everybody's like, nobody on their team's even in high school. They're all older.
Sweet.
The whole thing's crazy.
And it worked.
It worked until like, they got busted like a few days later, and they're like, yeah, the coach is like wanted for all these crimes.
For other crimes.
Non-football related crimes.
Hilarious.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just take a quick second here for our second sponsor, Cuts Clothing. If you want to look good, if you want the ladies to look at you and be like, now that's a guy that I could take home to my parents, and my dad would look at him and be like, who is this movie star?
Movie star.
Oh, Gary V is dating my daughter? I didn't know The Rock is taking my daughter on a date.
Sir, I'm not The Rock. I'm just wearing Cuts clothing.
He goes, excuse me.
Sir, I understand the mix-up.
Wait a sec.
But this is just the clothing that I wear.
So does that mean I get to be The Rock's dad? Is what he'll say. Whether you're hustling for a promotion, working on your golf swing, or just chilling with friends, Cuts Clothing keeps you feeling good and looking sharp. Cuts has become the Tesla of t-shirts, hoodies, polos, sweatshirts, and more. And GQ magazine called the classic PYCA Pro Tri-Blend Tee the only shirt worth wearing. This month marks Cuts' 5th anniversary, and they're doing it big with 2 collection drops, a product launch, and a week-long special event. Join the celebration and get 15% off site-wide by going to cutsclothing.com/boyscast. That's cutsclothing.com/boyscast for 15% off and access to anniversary events all month long. Cuts Clothing. Now.
You know what? I actually started my own clothing brand that we're selling them in JQ magazine.
Big boy.
We're selling them in JQ magazine. It's just a white sheet. Selling a lot of them though.
JQ magazine.
Been selling a lot of sheets.
JQ magazine called this JQ
the
magazine
sheet of the year.
No, they call this hat worst hat. Worst hat. Yamaka. 10 years in a row. JQ magazine is called the Yamaka worst hat.
10 years
ever.
running strong. Worst hat. Oh fuck.
And they actually called the baseball cap best hat. JQ magazine. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Do you think that there was one guy that was just about to go to Epstein Island, like he had a trip planned the day before Epstein got busted?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He was looking
He's
forward
like,
to it.
holy shit. He's like, we're going to bang all these girls. Bill Clinton's going to be there. It's going to be amazing. And then they're like, hey, we got some bad news.
Yeah, like he's been thinking forever. Like he the whole reason he even got into hedge fund blackmailing.
Yeah. It's like, what do you think I got in the Israeli army for?
Yeah. And every day he was talking to Epstein. He's like, so Jeff, last week you said I could come next week. And then he goes, for sure. It's just full this week. We're going to get you on the island. It's going to be fun. Get your dick ready.
Get the Viagra's. Take extras.
He was like the kid that's supposed to go to his dad's house and the dad never comes. Like he's sitting on the thing. Jeff Epstein's supposed to pick him up in a limo. And then he just gets a call like, sorry, buddy, going to take you next time.
Cops are on to us, so...
I'm going to take you next time. And then he gets busted right the day before. He was going to double team chicks with Clinton. He's so pissed. So
that's funny.
I watched this doc. I actually watched 2 different docs on the crack cocaine scandal, right?
Crack cocaine scandal?
Yeah, the scandal that your mom has a lot of crack.
What crack cocaine scandal?
Well, when you bent over,
yeah,
there was a scandal.
I have a high crack, actually.
You got a high crack?
Yeah, my girlfriend, she...
Oh, she's just trying to bring lower your self-esteem.
No,
by
I
saying
just,
there's weird
she's
things
just,
about you.
No,
you have a high crack.
It's not even that way. We're just like, man, your ass crack goes high.
Was it a compliment?
No, it's
Like,
more of just an observation.
Crack, dude.
It's not
Nice.
like sick or bad.
How does
It's
your
just,
crack go?
I don't know, around here.
Kind of weird. You guys are weird. What do you mean you have a high crack?
No, I just have a flat ass, so it looks like my crack is high.
Do you have a really flat ass?
Oh, I got
Notoriously?
0 ass.
Like a cartoon character.
I have like we always joke about
you
it.
have an old man ass.
If you ever see there's like this like girls in tight jeans with no ass meme, and it's like this dog, and it has like
I
the
know the
dog.
one. That's what you
That's
look like?
my ass in those jeans.
And your girlfriend's behind you being like, it's a big crack.
No, it's not. It's not a big crack. It's a high crack. It just goes high up the back.
What the fuck? Show the camera.
It's a regular crack. It's just because it's more of an optical illusion because the
So
ass
if someone
is
was
so
doing
flat.
the joke if you were bent over and someone was doing the joke where they swiped your credit card, it'd be a long swipe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It'd be a long swipe.
But I watched this doc, and I mean, first of all, it's obviously so crazy, like all the Contra stuff or whatever. But it was one thing that was interesting was because basically
What's the name of the doc?
there was two of them. And they're the two ones on Netflix, and they're basically one's called like just crack, and the other ones it's something the crackhead epidemic or whatever,
Okay.
right? But it's funny because a lot of these, one of them was way more of the premise of it was kind of like how it affected the black community or whatever, right? But it's so interesting because it's like all of these like pundits that are in these things, and university professors and experts of all sorts, all of them consistently are going on about how the media was lying here. The media was lying here, how the media got everything wrong in 1950, the lies, the overreactions. And you're just like, I bet you every single one of those people would be like, the media's right about COVID.
Yeah. Oh, they're nailing it.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm, absolutely.
It's like,
I mean, again, how can you say, every decade you look back and you go, the media was wrong about all this stuff, and then now being like, so just they're gonna be getting lots of stuff wrong now, right?
and I think a lot of people live in that where they would agree with you. If you look back at this, did the media get it wrong? If you look back at this war, did the media get it wrong? If you look back at the crack thing, did the media get it wrong? Yes. How's the media doing on COVID? Great.
I mean, you know what? I get that people trust the media because it's by far the path of least resistance. It's so much easier to be like trustful than distrustful, even though it's not necessarily to your benefit.
Not really, because you can be just dismissive. Like, you don't have to be the guy that's like out there telling everyone they're lying to you, man.
Yeah.
You can just be like, I don't listen to that fucking shit.
True. But it's like, I think people would rather think like, they're not like all out to get me.
I think so too, but it is funny to hold that belief side by side.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? And that was a lot of these docs, but they would always say about the experts. It is an interesting thing with all the race stuff, because the one doc was very, how it's raceful, and the kind of guys were even saying it's like, it almost makes it conspiratorial when it happens to all one group. And there is things where, why would cocaine have a way smaller charge than crack? Like, what's the difference? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when some people would kind of be saying, well, it wasn't about race. It was just like, we don't care. When we were like bringing crack in the streets, like, we don't care who we're selling it to. Like, it was essentially the Contras were selling, and they were using these profits for,
To war and stuff.
for war.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they don't care. Like, those people were not like, oh, let's make it like black people. It's like the reason it was like a turn of events. Obviously, a lot of times seems conspiratorial.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, the reason they put it in those communities is because there was less police there.
Yeah.
To some degree, no one's caring. So there is a conspiracy that maybe no one cared about those communities, which made it easier to do this. But the conspiracy that it was like on purpose to ruin the black community, I don't know. It's like, there's those things.
When I was in
you can think whatever you want, but there's different opinions on those.
When I lived in Guelph, actually, I knew a guy who lived in my building. My last year in Guelph was like a functioning crack addict.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then
It's weird.
It is. Well, this is why
Like, he had a normal job and everything, but he was like legit like crackhead.
Well, I don't know if you like how much you know this, and I don't really talk about like that much personal stuff like on docs or whatever, but the one of the reasons why, on like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't live like a reality star really. But the reason why it was so weird to me, it's like in a lot of these things, it's kind of the same as when, everything's about race and all these, there's a lot of white people that are like, opioid addicts or whatever. It was funny to me because I was watching, the one doc was kind of more about the drug thing, and the other thing was like very, social justice oriented.
Yeah.
And it was sort of interesting to me because it was kind of like these university professors being like, and the crack was like a black problem. It's only to black. And it was kind of like, but I have two uncles that died from that.
Yeah.
So in my family, like, it wasn't at all.
It's just like if you put it in a pride. Yeah, for sure.
So
I mean, it's not.
I can see how it makes people mad. Because to me, you're just like imagine some fucking white college kid being like, "Oh, crack only affects black families," and I'm like, "Well, not in mine, it didn't."
Yeah, totally.
And you're just like, "Fuck you." Like, I went through the.
Well, they just probably go like, they just pick a very small sample size specifically and be like, look how bad it was here. And you go, yeah, I guess if you pick only there, then that proves your point.
And then, yeah. And also, I mean, it is, it is one of those things where there's so many components of it. But when you look at the when they were saying that coke was, higher sentence, one of the arguments, and it's like it's hard to disagree.
Crack was, right?
Crack was a higher
because
sentence.
it's like concentrated.
Is that the reason?
I think it's because I think so, or it's like
I think that they were saying
I
sentence is way higher, but there is something to be said about laws that are, if you're trying to fucking make the laws that make your country better or whatever, like one was like devastating societies and the other wasn't. Like maybe it's if you have a moral obligation against drugs, but like, to be honest, if you say your average person who's like going to clubs and doing coke, is that really wrecking? You're not walking around and it's, nonsense, because those people aren't doing stealing and prostituting to get their coke. Whereas in the crack, people actually are.
It's like causing all this crime for people getting
crime.
hooked on it.
So it is.
People.
Kind of worse.
I'm sure there's lots of crime. I'm sure there's lots of crime based on people getting hooked on coke that are just not in.
But do you know very many?
No, but I mean, there's no shortage of people who are like, yeah, I've fucking spent $50,000 a year on coke or something for. Right.
So I had two. Yeah, it's not. But I had two different uncles die in a 2-year span, and so what happened was, and it was literally what you hear about in fucking books. Like, these people kind of over the time become, they grew up in the projects and stuff, and then ended up on the streets, essentially, all that stuff. And then the one would be going to my grandmother's house, stealing her things, emptied out her pension, shit like that.
Yeah.
And anything like silverware, she'd come, they'd pawn off her. And then, my mom would be like, her brothers would be like, we're going to, if you ever come back,
Yeah, of course.
It would be but it's one of those things where it's so easy for everyone. Everyone has the answers to like everything when it's, when it's broad. It's kind of like what people think with homeless people. They're like, just do this. And it's like, you could just throw money at every problem. But everyone knows, they're like, hey, if you had a family that had 10 people and one person was like doing drugs and stealing from everyone, like, could you just throw money at that problem? No,
you'd kill them.
There isn't. There's who knows what you're right.
I mean, if you go,
you are right.
Yeah, you
kill them. You're right.
Yeah, if someone's like at that point where they're like stealing for their, like, you'd be like, here's a bunch of money. You're like, okay,
you just killed them.
Yeah, you just killed them. They go, okay, I'm gonna spend this all on this drug I'm addicted to, and then they're dead.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that point. But then they would kind of disappear for another 6 months, and then they would come back, and then
cycles all over.
And then because it's their mom, she takes them back, and then so like even when she died, for example, there was supposed to be a life insurance policy or whatever that even just paid for the funeral and little things like that, because when her husband died, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Cash that out. So on top of it,
and they didn't find out until
in his death, it's like everyone else has to pay, thousands of dollars, and they're not that rich on that side, right? So it's like they've got to come up with all this money because like the other brother like emptied out her pension, and this was
it's fucking.
So it's just like a crazy mess. Like I can see how. Crack is but it is, it's just those poor neighborhoods. And it's like, what a wild fucking drug.
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. There's plenty of fucking affluent people who are addicted to crack who just stay addicted to crack because it doesn't, they have so much money they're able to not kill themselves.
There'll be like little pockets where it's like maybe they stop for a second and get a part-time job as like a mover. And then 4 months later, it's like, someone saw them like begging outside of like the beer store or whatever, and then it was like, then you don't see them there anymore, and then they're stealing.
I actually was thinking walking down the street in our neighborhood the other day, where I'm like, it is crazy how good heroin must be, where it makes you kind of like fine with being homeless, because like you see all the people who are like their life is just getting more heroin, like that's the whole purpose of existing, is just more heroin all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of like pussy, where it's like people that live on the street where as long as they get that new little piece coming at them.
Yeah, I mean, except you can't be homeless and get tons of pussy.
It always makes me laugh that being old like kills more people than drunk drivers.
Yeah.
And that's such a funny stat. Where it's like any person that's like drunk driving is bad. You're just like, if I'm leaving with my grandmother and we get in the car and I'm smashed, I'm less likely to probably get in a car accident than her just sober being old.
Just being old. Just like shouldn't have her license anymore, but she does.
Yeah.
She's kind of got too old for her license, but her license hasn't expired.
So funny. Let's see if there's.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you've seen it. I always think it's kind of like the scummiest thing ever, but the fact that all these influencers are taking money to be pro-vax people or whatever. So the government is giving people like all this money.
Wait, you didn't get anything?
Well, that's
Dude,
what
I'm getting $2,000 a month right now. Why do you think I'm so pro-vax?
how funny would that be if we just
Turns
came out and
you go, the government's giving people money, and we just think that's such a great thing, which is why we're here today.
we want you to say, get your jab, people. By the way, the word jab sort of always makes me like cringe, but
I know.
welcome to the Jab Hour with Ryan Long and Danny Polishuk. Jabbing and gabbing.
We've got the gift of jab and the gift of gab.
Ladies and
on
gentlemen,
the Boys Cast.
welcome to the Boys Cast. We're just jabbing and gabbing.
Brought to you by AstraZeneca, your only choice for vaccines.
Oh, fuck. We are just, just ducking and jabbing. Anyways, having fun here. Get that vax, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to the experts. Don't care which ones, just the experts. But, like, I told you, I had a few people messaging me being like, I'll give you some money to say some shit. And you're just like, if you are just a person that really does like dance or something like that, I guess, okay. But if you're someone that says your opinions for a living, you got to be some type of, like, how can anyone listen to you if they know you're being paid for opinions?
Well, that's
just from
the thing
any
is
integrity.
Is keep that to yourself.
You can't though, because you have to. Well, I think that you're supposed to.
There's people
message
who are
paid for you by them.
Right. Oh yeah, I guess.
I guess the idea, the only thing is you say, you go, well, I think this so much already that
Yeah.
But it is like such a political thing too. It's if you aren't in that, what do you want to take like a super political stance on anything? On like the 50-50 thing. But she goes, a TikTok creator with over 10 million followers received an email in June from Village Marketing. So it was on behalf of the White House. So you imagine getting an email from the White House and you're like a 12-year-old.
You're just doing dumb dances on TikTok.
They're like, we need you. So they're giving them $1,000 a month, which actually kind of seems low to fucking shill for something.
Pretty good if you're 12.
Yeah, I guess. Depends on how many fucking. But the efforts are as a part of a counterattack against a rising tide of misinformation that has flooded the internet, where the anti-vaccine, pretty good hustle where they've been able to say that anything they don't agree with is misinformation. And they go, but this may not be a match for mass organic online movements. Is like, yeah, you don't say. This reminds me of the crack thing where they had the commercials where it was like, don't do crack because crack is bad. If you're rad, you won't do crack.
Totally.
Do you remember smoking was bad? And when we were in high school, did you have all the things? It was like, and dare, like drugs are bad.
I
stuff?
had that. I remember really one that I remember a big one from the early 90s was This Is Your Brain on Drugs with the eggs. With the eggs.
If they were smart, if they actually gave a
With
shit.
Wilford Brimley, you go, this is your brain. And he cracks the eggs, goes, this is your brain on drugs. You go, what does that mean?
Your brain gets squished.
You go, wait, my brain was just the uncooked egg?
Yeah, your brain's an egg, pal. Hey, listen, hi, crack. Your
brain's
an egg.
Your brain's a raw egg. Now your brain's a cooked egg. Which one would you rather have? I go, I think the cooked egg I'd rather have.
Maybe a cooked egg.
I'd rather have a cooked egg.
More like a brain.
I can't really do much with a raw egg other than
bunch
cook
of
it.
liquids.
Yeah. Raw egg's kind of gross and like a break. I think cooked egg for me.
What they should have said, if they really wanted to make you care, have like a hot dog and be like, this is your dick. This is your dick on drugs. And then chop it up and you go, you won't even, your dick won't work if you fucking.
It'll be all chopped up.
All the cool kids don't smoke weed. This is your time of need. Don't smoke weed. Don't smoke weed. Smoking's bad and weed's for losers. Get the
last thing you want to
jabbing.
be is a drug user. Don't smoke weed.
Yeah, don't smoke weed. Get the jab and you'll be cooler. Don't smoke weed. Get vax. Don't do crack and get the jab. But I would love it some other way of a bunch of people give influencers, like TikTok influencers, money to just say like fucking, hey, this is in a conjunction with the Boys Cast, and I just want to say that women suck. And you get some like TikToker. I just want to say that men rule and girls drool.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to my TikTok dances. Like they don't even read it.
Ad.
What?
ad was that for?
They do, yeah, they don't even want to. But I was talking to this black comic, and he was funny. He was like, people were like, "Did you get the vaccine?" He goes, "I kind of." It is what it is, but I don't really talk about it. I like to keep one foot in the hood, like, because he was like, you do have to, the mainstream, you have to say that you are, but for him, he was like, I don't want to go back to the homies and the hood and be like, I got the jet. Like, it's very
Yeah, of
cool.
course. Yeah, it's not cool.
But one thing I've been thinking about, so I did this
I think
one.
you have syphilis, probably.
The only thing that I've done on the vaccine was, I have this one video that's how fighting about the vaccine is the new fighting about Trump. And it's like a music video. So we did that video. But the reason why this one is so weird, and I think about it a lot because it really has become the new fighting about Trump. But the reason why it's like a weird fight is because for most people, their life is completely back to normal. Like, if you don't live somewhere insane, like I was thinking about it the other day. What has changed for me? What is COVID affecting me right now? Is that you wear a mask on a plane and maybe in an Uber, depending on
and you show your card in New York sometimes.
How many times have you done that?
Rarely, but now it's more often.
But that's what I mean. Okay, so if you have gotten vaccinated, like it really is for most people, and that number can only go up. That's why it's so funny when people show stats and they're like, look at the vaccination rates. You're like, well, yeah, those can only go one way.
Well, theoretically not, because
You can unvaccine yourself?
double vaxxers, if you're double vaxxed, at a certain point, you're going to be considered unvaccinated. They're going to be like, it's worn off, and you will go back to being unvaccinated.
Yeah.
But I mean, I
think the most reasonable stance is like, get it or don't get it.
Yeah, but like at this point, the vaccinated people, their main argument now, they've run, because at first they were like, well, what about my health? What about other people's health? Blah, blah, blah. Now really their thing is, we're like, look, if you're not getting vaccinated, you're taking up like hospital beds from people.
No, they're all making up
who need it.
I feel like,
but that's like their
sorry.
last like avenue of argument is to go like, there's nothing else, because they're like, look, you're vaccinated, you can wear a mask, you should be protected. If you're protected from like dying or whatever, like you're not going to go to the hospital if you're vaccinated, or most people won't or whatever. And then now they're like, well, but if you're unvaccinated, you will go to the hospital and you shouldn't be allowed to like take up hospital beds. But like, that's the end of their argument. Like we've reached that one point where it's just about this like hospital bed capacity.
Right.
And that's really it. They're not like, you're going to make me sick, you're going to make my kid sick. That's over. It's like,
no, I don't believe them. I don't even like, it's just become this argument. But then on the other side, there is that it's always kind of like, when people go, well, you should just quit comedy if they make you get vaccinated. You go, are you insane?
Yeah.
So what? I just quit. You go, are you insane? Like you have no.
I mean, some people are so principled that they think they're
okay.
like,
But let me ask you a question.
Like,
I don't think that you should pay as much taxes as you do. Are you going to go to jail for that?
no, obviously not. It's like
I understand
dude,
being
it's like
principled.
someone in the NBA who's like, there was this one guy actually, Royce White, and he's like, yeah, I don't know, I have anxiety, I can't fly. And then they were like, well, we it's just impossible. We can't bus you around. You play in the NBA. Like you might play in a city that's the next night's too far away. And he goes, well, then I'm not playing. And they go, okay, someone's going to take your spot, man. Like, I don't think you're not LeBron James. Like it's fine. Don't play.
Well, yeah, it is a really like, but
and he's like very principled. He's like, yeah, see, like I started, and you go, okay, like, yeah, good for you.
Yeah. And that's why it's sort of, it's not as funny to me, because the only two, I honestly think most normal people think, yeah, get the vax or don't get the vax. I don't really like the passports, but it's not going to be my fight.
Yeah.
Because the only thing you can make funny wise is just going to be red meat. Like it's like, it's very like, and some people do that where they make videos that's just very red meat. But I always try to think of like, what can you add to the conversation? You know what I mean? And it's like, and honestly, it feels like in normal life, I don't think people really talk about COVID anymore. I really don't. No. Do you? Like when I'm out with people, it's like, it's so not a thing.
No.
But then, so you go, we have a couple of friends, like, but on the internet that are really, this is like their whole fight right now. But for most normal people, you just kind of don't think about it anymore. It kind of reminds me of like, imagine you're big into ending the Fed or all that stuff. That may be, right? But it's like, it's really a conversation on the internet.
Yeah.
And most people kind of don't give a shit. That's why when lockdowns were happening, it was like, no, you're fucking with everyone's lives. You're locking everything down. And this stuff, I agree. It's like, they probably shouldn't have a passport. But at the end of the day, I just think that it's a weird fight because no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
It's like arguing on the internet.
Well, some people care, but most people don't.
No, but on the internet, it really is an internet fight.
Yeah, I agree.
How many people do you know in real life that care that much?
I mean, we know them a few.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that.
Yeah.
To be honest, I do know people that care.
Well, we know people who are like literally don't, like our one buddy, Kevin, he gets kicked out of anywhere he goes. It's like now they're in Toronto. There is going to be a vaccine passport in a couple of weeks. And,
that is wild.
And he's not going to be able to go in anywhere.
Fucking wild. So
I actually, the thing is, it's wild. I feel bad for places that they're actually digitized and there's a good system. Like Ontario seems like there is a database, so there won't be like a faking it. Like when I was at Stand Up New York
if you really
on Saturday,
shit, like,
dude, at Stand Up New York, I was talking about it. I go, yeah, we're in a room full of vaccinated people and people who have basic computer skills and own a printer. And everybody's like dying because they're like, obviously, and everybody's like, I know everybody feels
so easy.
And you're like, all you vaccinated people, you feel so fucking safe. But I'm like, someone beside you probably is not vaccinated and just has a printer. And you're like,
it's so easy.
Yeah, here, but in some places, like in Toronto, I don't think it's just printing off a piece of paper. You will have to get like an app on your phone. You're in a database, and you will your app will go from green to red the day that 6 months expires and your time for a booster. You're like, it'll just one day you wake up and you're like, oh, I can't go in anywhere right now.
Yeah, that's
which is fucked up. That's really fucked up.
But it is a weird one, and I've been thinking about a lot of, like, I want to say anything about it comedically, and it kind of reminds me of, like, how Trump made politics culture for, like, a while, but a lot of these things, it's impossible to, like, add something to the conversation without it just really seeming like, real fucking red meat.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to find the gray area, I think. It's like, it seems like...
it's not even gray area. It's just like, what are you adding?
Yeah.
Like, imagine you think vaccine passports are bad, right? That's your point. Like, okay, so what's the video? Just the vaccine passports are bad. Like, what's your point?
Mm-hmm.
So you're just like, you know how we all think that? Here's me saying it in a video.
Yeah.
What's your point?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point that you're making? The only point that people can make is like, that it's worse for minorities or whatever. But it's like, but in theory, I don't really like, I get the idea of being like, well, if you think this, then why don't you think this? But I don't really agree that just because something affects one group more than another, that it's sexist or racist. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I guess your point is like the hypocrisy, but
yeah,
there's no shortage of hypocrisy everywhere. Here, it's like, I think it's just become like the ultimate politicized thing.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
so sure. That red meat space is just not like a space I really like occupying, but
yeah, I don't know. The vaccine passports are fucking lame.
Stupid.
The question is just like, how long will they go on for? I guess that's a lot of the people who are against them. They go, this is never going to end.
Yeah. Well,
the problem is if it does end, then it's like what I said last week, where it's like, if it does end, then, then the people who are fine with it be like, see, it ended. But then at that point, those people are not going to be like, oh, well, I guess I was wrong for 5 years.
Right.
Oh, there you go. Huh, that was weird. Wish I didn't make my identity all about that for the last several years, because I guess it was just nothing.
Well, I'm going to keep thinking about that. I feel like I want to crack something. But anyways, this has been The Boys Cast. We actually have a buttload to talk about this week on the Patreon. If you guys want to come over, we're actually going to continue.
Come on over, boys.
We're going to talk about the Texas abortion stuff, like Beijing, real cancel culture, scrubbing people from the internet. We're going to do a list or what do you call it? A rating of all the like celebrity apologies, and article on Cuomo that we didn't get to last week, some boys questions. Patreon.com/theboyscast. Thank you everyone for listening. Follow the YouTube Clips channel.
Yeah.
Questions and email articles to the boyscast with Ryan Long at gmail.com.
Some questions in there.
Yeah. You know what it is. Peace. Later.